as you call her Andy, that's her nickname, Andy. So I want to mess it up because there's another person with your kind of name, and I'm just in love with her. So
Yeah.
you know, and Mr. Rusty, what got you started in this sport? As I call it, muscle masculinity. Please share.
Andy, do you want to start this one? What got you started?
Yeah, yeah. We start
You
with
want to
you.
ask me first? Okay, well,
What,
basically, Rusty is what got me started in lifting weights. When I was 12 years old, I wanted my brothers to think that I was cool, and they were, Rusty had built this gym on our back porch in Tucson, Arizona, called the Torture Chamber. And for a while there, it was actually his bedroom too. And he actually made a bunch of the equipment, built the benches, and he like welded together squat racks and things like that. And he made this awesome gym for us to train in. And I wanted, him and my other brother Scott, who's a professional musician, to think that I was cool. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll go lift with them. And Rusty was nice enough to show me how to do some lifts and get started. And once I got started, I really got hooked because I felt like I have control over the way my body looks and feels. And I just always love feeling that power surging through my body. So, and I just love motion, makes me happy. Moving my body makes me happy. So that's how I got started.
hmm And what about
Okay,
Mr.
well,
Rusty? What got you? Okay, go ahead.
well, I was impressed with my uncles because they were so big and strong when I was a kid, and they were big, like big football players. They played for the Air Force and the Navy or whatever they did, and you know, I remember Uncle John had shown me some lifts with some weights, and I was like, "Oh, cool, that's cool." And so I'd sneak into the weight rooms at the high schools or at a YMCA, and they'd kick me out. Hey, you're not old enough to be in here yet. And so I thought, well, I just have to build my own equipment, and they're not going to let me in to use any. So I just started putting together stuff, and I got better at it as time went on. So
Mhm.
now I can build stuff. I'm selling a posing mirror now, so that I put together. We got a patent on it, and it's a back mirror with a bench that rolls around, and it's an adjustable thing, and you could put it in any gym.
It's super cool. Really great because, when you're getting ready for a contest, it is so critical that you can see what your back poses look like. Otherwise, you don't really know if you're flexing the right way for the judges when you get on stage. And this back mirror is awesome for that because, your coach can be there, moving things around, making comments, whatever. Or you can even just guide it yourself to say, I want to put it here at this angle, and I'm going to be able to see what I need to see. And it doesn't require an entire posing room. All you need is like one big other mirror. And then this rolling mirror that Rusty designed, it's super cool.
That's great. I mean, it sounds something very innovative, especially if you look at how when you're training, your back is one of the most hardest parts to work on, and it's hard to see it because you can't see as good tail as we see your front. So then you might miss a few things. It's good that this is something you're padding, and something that's very revolutionary for the sport.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Rusty, you started right about, I would say, the good part of the '80s, and I would say that was, I think, somewhat I would call it for men's bodybuilding. It was kind of like the Silver Age, like you just was Arnold was just retiring. You had Lee Haney being champion. A lot of the guys like Frank Zane and Franklin Colombo were still around. What was that experience for you like?
Well, I remember watching the Wild World of Sports and seeing Frank Zane win the Mr. Universe, and I think that was in '79. Might have even been '78 because he won it like 3 years in a row from '77 to '79, I believe.
And
But
that was on just regular TV, right?
yeah, it was on the Wild World of Sports. Where you
Yeah.
see that guy flying down the hill and the agony of
Yeah.
defeat, and that freaking crazy wipeout with that skier. Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember Bible used to come on like ABC and NBC used to show it. Fox and ESPN used to show it, but you don't see it now. You can watch cornhole and throwing darts on. I mean, what the hell? I mean, it's crazy. So we got some guests here coming through. I want to shout out my guests who come through. Shout out to my nephew Alex. We did a little talk yesterday. Alex says, "Hey George, nice you meet you, Rusty and Andrea. It's cool and refreshing to see bodybuilding siblings. Andrea, I thought you and everyone did great in the Triple O. In fact, I recently made that poster. Yeah, my man, he made that little poster. He tagged you in it with all the
Yeah,
ladies in it.
thank you for making that poster. That was a really cool one.
Yeah, he's a really good kid. He's got a lot of talent. Also,
Awesome.
shout out to my man Dos. He's from Croatia. He says, "Hi everyone. Hi, my man Black Panther coming through. Shout out to Black Panther. He says this is women's bodybuilding is the greatest. He says George, you are the greatest. Appreciate that. Also, my man, he says Andrea looks absolutely beautiful. She is a little modest, but her husband's here, so y'all got it.
Thank you.
Command's in the corner. And my man Dos got also shout out to you, Mr. Russ. He says, I like Rusty's mustache. You know, it's like a classic handlebar style. How do you do like that? So anyway, back in the day, that was bodybuilding I think was classic around by that time, but it kind of evolved over time. When did you turn pro? What was that experience like when you got your pro card?
Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, okay. For me, it was so satisfying for me because I had basically, so I started bodybuilding. My first show was in 1982, and then I competed in several other shows. And then I took some time off to raise my kids because, training, 1 year after giving birth to my daughter in 1991, I competed in the 1992 Ms. Arizona and took first place. But that almost tore my marriage apart. And I had realized I got to make a choice here. Do I be a, mom and wife, or do I spend that time just doing bodybuilding? And so I had to find the balance. And I was like, look, I can go back and be a bodybuilder anytime. And so then that's what I did in 2020. So I took the time off from 1992, and then I competed again in 2020. And I did the women's extravaganza at the Wings of Strength, and took first place in that. And then that year
you got that sword, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I love winning swords. That's the best thing ever. I was like, forget the tiara, give me a friggin' sword or a battle axe. That's more my style. Anyway, then after let's see. So after the Wings of Strength contest, I went to the Masters USA, and I took second place. And it was so close. So
it was close. It was brutally close.
And then I went back the next year, and again, I was in second place. So then it was in 2022 is when I did the Masters USA, and I finally got my pro card. So because I had been so close for those multiple years, then finally having that in my hands, and I got two of them because I got one for the 50 plus class and one for the 40 plus class. I was like, hell yeah, nobody's denying me now. So I was super, super happy and stoked about that. Then I competed in the 2023 Tampa Pro, and I think I talked about that on the last time I was on your show, that, they took away my protein powder at the airport and made me miss my flight. It would have taken 4 hours, and ended up taking 12 hours, to get from, Arizona to Florida. And so I was so stressed. I didn't have the right food, and I just could not recover from that. So I did not look like I should have looked on stage at the Tampa Pro there. And so I ended up in last place in the Open. I still took fifth place at the Masters 50 and over and 55 and over. But anyway, so that's a long answer to your question of what was it like to get my pro card. It was super satisfying, and I was really happy that I did.
Well, that thing is, you have to, I know ladies who, like yourself, who stepped away from the sport and came back, and then finally got the opportunity to get pro card. I know ladies who have competed as NPC for a long time before they finally got it. It's tough, especially how the sport has evolved over time, how the looks have changed from the era of people we go back to women like Corey Everson and men like Frank Zan to if you look at people currently now, one person that always, and y'all got to meet her when she was at my girlfriend Andrea Shaw.
Right. Yeah, she's amazing.
I can't help it. I just think she's so beautiful, because this is a story I told your sister, Mr. Russ. My friend Eunice, I know you know Eunice. She's my friend too. And Eunice was at the Olympic back in 2023. And this was maybe just about a little bit after my birthday. And she sent me a text, said, George, something come for you in the mail. And it was this issue of Muscle Development. You remember Muscle Development was probably one of the best magazines back in the day. This is the last hard copy they got. They're going digital now. And what makes it so special about it is She signed it for me.
Nice.
Cool.
I always want to bring that out. I always want to shout out my dear friend. I also always want to shout out my dear friend Eunice of Bad Rep.
Yeah.
She told me
Yeah,
that.
she's amazing.
She told me y'all competed together back in the day. You and Eunice.
Yeah, they were at the Iron Man 1 year together, right, Rusty?
Mhm.
Yeah. So for you, you turned pro, I think, around about the 2000s. What was that experience for you, Mr. Russ, when you finally got your pro card?
What was that?
What was that experience for you when you finally got your pro card?
Oh, well, I got my pro card in 2004. But what happened before that was you used to have to qualify every year to go to the nationals. So I would have to win like a regional or a state show, and then I could compete in the USA and the nationals, right? So I did that 9 years in a row. I would have to win an overall title somewhere because back then, if you didn't win the overall, you didn't get qualified to go to the nationals. So I did that 9 years in a row. I did, I won a show somewhere, did the USA, did the nationals. And if I didn't place, I'd pick up and do it again. So I did that 9 years in a row before I finally, at the 2004 USA, I placed second to Chris Cook in the super heavyweights. And then the following weekend was the Masters Nationals. And I flew out there and I took the supers and the overall and I got my pro card.
That was a good day.
But yeah, it was a long road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I think it's a lot of work and dedication. Because I talk about this on my channel quite often, how people look at bodybuilders like, I just pop a couple of pills, I get big and huge. But if you're not sticking to consistency, if you don't do the diet, you don't follow a plan, it's not as easy as everybody thinks. We have some comments here.
Every time you lose a show, you gotta reevaluate everything you've done, right? Because you didn't do something right if you didn't win it. So you got to reevaluate everything: your diet, your training, how you looked in your poses, with your tan. Did that come out right? I mean, by the time you've done so many of them, you're going to get a lot of stuff right. I mean, pretty soon there's no more mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's what you're shooting for. You'll show up and you'll finally have everything right. And it's hard when, traveling to peaking on the road. That's no joke, I mean, it's you really got to know how your body reacts to traveling. And, that's why I try to get places a few days early so I don't have to worry about the flight, holding water from the flight, all that stuff.
I remember I interviewed a couple of ladies who did the Masters Olympia. They did the Master Olympias last year in Japan. And that's like a 14, 15-hour flight. And, and it's just, you got to think about it. You sit there, water retention can happen. Also jet lag. I know one lady, she did a show in
jet
Romania.
lag, horrible. I did the Masters O in 23 and it was out in Romania. And, I got there a few days early so I could get back to normal, which definitely helped. But you have to do that. If you don't do that, you're going to be all stressed from the flight and you're just not going to look your best.
Yeah, you can come in flat.
Especially when you got those freaking 14-hour flights or, I know we had to land like somewhere in Turkey or something, Istanbul or something, and spend a half a day there and then take another 6-hour, 8-hour flight. And it's like, it's a full 24 hours worth of flying around, get where you're going, especially in some of those, countries that are so far away.
Yeah. One thing I've never done is I've been on a train, but I've never been on a plane. I think about going to a show coming up sometime soon. I was thinking about getting myself a real ID, but then I saw that because of my size, it's hard. They charge you double for a ticket depending on the airplane. So I might go by a train, but hoping I might work on my way a little bit. Maybe in the future I'll get on one. We have here some comments. Shout out to our man Nodo says, in bodybuilder career, did they still have something to accomplish or they are satisfied with all things they are done by now?
I'm not done yet.
I got a couple shows left in me, I think.
Yeah.
like my favorite character from the movie Tombstone, Doc Holliday, the late Val Kilmer. He says, I'm not retired. I'm still in my prime. So,
yeah, I'm in my prime.
Yeah, in my prime. Get the Doc Holliday mustache and be it too. I should wear my Doc shirt. We got here the lovely Mr. Doug Wellington. He says this: they live till they die.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whether we compete or not till we die, that's another story. But lifting is just part of what we do to be happy people.
Yeah. And
Well,
also,
to be a
brother,
healthy human being, you got to have some type of an exercise that you do. You
Yeah.
know, some people bicycle, some people like to hike, some people play. What's that new thing everybody's playing now?
Pickleball.
Pickleball. You
Yeah.
know,
that's just
it's
like,
like,
it's like,
but you got to have something that you enjoy to do. That's
Mhm.
exercise, and for us, it's lifting.
Right. And it's not just for your muscles or just for your heart, it's for your brain as well.
yeah, I remember when I was in high school, I used to love lifting weights. I was like, by the time I was 16, I was already doing 350 on the bench press. I was doing
Nice.
550 on the squat because, I was a country boy. We did a lot of heavy work like that. I mean, this is a true story, Mr. Russ, when I was playing on my football team, and when my teammates asked me, George, you strong? So yeah, because I said, you ever have some, son? Say, why? He said, you mean that? No. He said, well, son, he caught strong. That's what he said. He told me. It's old term country anomaly. We call you cockstrong. We got here shot to my man Dose. He says this says, did they ever compete against each other? Like who can make the more reps, bench press, lots other things?
No, not really.
Well, we kind of see if we could out leg rep each other on a couple of occasions.
Yeah. But then of course we have to adjust the weights a little bit, right? But yeah, we've had some pretty intense training sessions together, that's for sure. Especially like around holidays, when all the other gyms are closed, we'd get together and train in Rusty's gym, and yeah, it's always a good time.
Yeah. Well, we have here something also. Mr. Doug has something to say here. He says, George asked him about Sunday Mass.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those are good days. Yeah. Go ahead, Russ.
Well, I would put legs on Sundays because we would do them so hard that you were just useless for the rest of the day. So you couldn't do it on a weekday if you had to work or anything. So, so we would get together with a bunch of buddies or whatever and just beat each other up for 2-3 hours sometimes on legs. And we called it Sunday Mass, It's good when you have a couple extra guys because you can do pylon sets or you can do strip sets. There's a lot more you can do when you have extra people,
Or piggyback rides up the little hill by the house.
Oh yeah, at the end, there's always a surprise exercise at the end of Sunday Mass, and it would be like, "Hey, we got this freaking cart. Remember the cart that Honey used to have?
Yeah,
we'd throw everybody in this little horse cart, and we'd have them race up the hill,
Yeah.
They'll do like the old
or take that big log. Remember that giant log we used to have? Mm-hmm. And we'd do a lunge across the street. We'd be shaking like, "Holy crap! Like whose idea was this?"
Right.
We kind of used to do that. Yeah. We had cinder blocks, and we had wood blocks, and used to just lift around. Because we lived at the country. We didn't have we had a good old fashioned wood burning stove. But yeah, that's amazing. It's kind of like I referred to an episode of my favorite show, Chappelle Show. It's like Leg Day for a Bodybuilder is like an episode where Rick James go to visit Eddie and Charlie Murphy at the house, and he says, "F your couch, Eddie Murphy," and they're bigging his legs. Like that's Leg Day for a bodybuilder. Folks, we got some nice pictures here. Andrea sent to me, and here's one. And this is the family. I know Mr. Doug, and I see you, Mr. Russ. And who's the other three people in the picture?
So my mom is standing right next to Rusty.
Oh, you just appreciate your mama.
Yeah. And then my brother-in-law Kurt is right behind my mom, and between Kurt and I is my sister Jen. She's the oldest of the four of us kids, and she's amazing on a bicycle. None of us can keep up with her on a bicycle.
Yeah, she's like an endurance athlete, like crazy.
Yeah, big time. So she doesn't like doing much of the indoor kind of working out stuff. Very much of an outdoorsy girl.
Yeah. So she's the oldest. Who is the baby? And who is the very middle?
I'm the baby. So Jen is the oldest, and then there's Rusty, and then our musician brother Scott. He's got an amazing band, Scott Jeffers Traveler, and he's been playing music since he was 12 years old, 14 years old. He's amazing and plays like 20 different instruments. Super cool. Anyway, and then I'm the youngest of the four.
So you're the baby girl.
I'm the baby girl. Yeah.
She's spoiled ass. She's spoiled ass. Just admit it. She's spoiled. Because the baby's always we're the middle children, Mr. Russ. We have to fight for our love. My mother, don't you love us? But the baby always get all the love because that's the last one.
Yeah, the baby got the love. Yeah,
get all the love. We have to fight for our love. You big.
We'd try to get away from Andy, and she would like ride up the hill on her bicycle, like, and we're like, God, I can't believe she freaking rode all the way up that damn steep hill on that bicycle.
I would
like
just straight up.
And we're like, look at those freaking legs cranking, Jesus.
Well, that's what she got, some great legs. I think that's what she got.
Yeah, started somewhere. Yep.
Somewhere. Yeah, we got here. Shout out to our man Nodos. He's dropping this. He says, in Rusty 40 years of competing in bodybuilding, what has the most embarrassed situation he ever crossed to, and the most satisfying situation he ever crossed to? That's also a question to Andrea.
Go ahead, Russ.
Go ahead.
What was the most embarrassing situation?
Yeah. Like pertaining to bodybuilding?
Yeah.
I think just missing your peak completely and showing up just completely spilled over, and you're like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. So here's the thing, like everybody sees you on that stage, especially at a national stage, like the whole entire audience is filled, like thousands of people, and they're looking at you like, oh my God, if you missed it, and you were too stressed from the flight and everything, and you carved up on something that didn't work for you, and you just looked horrible. Yeah, that was one of my times where I showed up and I was like, okay, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's tough because you know what? It takes a lot of work, time, patience, consistency. It's not as easy when it comes to any other sport, especially bodybuilding, because it can be a lot when you're trying to grow certain parts of your body, trying to build to a certain level when you are in competition shape. In off season, that's also tough because you have to work on things and and build this and that. And it's just, for those who are not bodybuilders like myself, it's just a lot to do and take.
But it's your reputation up there, you know what I mean? Right. And that's what's embarrassing about it, because you're supposed to be this expert, and then you show up looking like crap. It's like, well, get a load of this dude,
They'd be like, what happened? But anybody who's in the business,
that most satisfying thing, I think, was it was the it was like, I want to say 99, might have been the LA championships, but it was before they split the supers and the heavies, right? So all these giant guys were in there, and Quincy Taylor was in that lineup, and it was before he turned pro. It was before I turned pro, but I had just nailed it that day, and I came in and I looked really super sharp, and I ended up winning that show against all these big dudes, and I was like, holy crap, but I was balanced and I could pose, and the California judging panels at the time really liked guys who were balanced and were lean and that could pose, right? The package, you know what I mean? So I ended up winning that show, and I was, that was probably one of the most satisfying ones to actually win, go out to another state and take the overall,
Nice.
And what about you, Andy?
Well, for me, I think probably the most embarrassing thing in bodybuilding was just being on that Tampa stage looking much punier than I should have. That was really just so disappointing because so much work went into that. And then here I am standing there like, how did I get so small? So I actually used that to fuel me every freaking workout in the gym after that. I was like, I will not be small. So I was like training hard. Like, I'm not going to go through that pain again. But it wasn't just that my muscles were small. It was that they were in a situation of so much cortisol. I could not get them to fill with glycogen for the life of me, right? So there was a lot going on with my physiology at that time. But anyway, that was embarrassing. And I think probably the most rewarding thing, it'd be a toss-up between when I got back to bodybuilding after taking 18 years off and got back on stage after having raised my kids and feeling comfortable where that part of my life was, feeling comfortable where my career was. And then, to be on stage and like, I can actually do this again. Like, I didn't know I could. I was thinking, maybe I'm going to be, have too much flabby skin or whatever. And I actually did quite well. So that was, probably one of the most exhilarating parts of my bodybuilding career. But then also just at this Triple O Dynasty, being able to be on stage that day on the best shape of my life, the DEXA
she looked her best.
The DEXA scan said I was
she nailed it.
body fat. And this was all after having actually torn my hamstring. I didn't know it was torn at the time. I tore it off the bone on March 1st. So this is like a month before the show. I don't have a functional hamstring. Right. So I had to finish up that entire prep without doing the right. Like normally at that point, you're like doing glutes every day and training. Like my legs are a weaker point now. So I'm trying to hit them hard, but I couldn't after that. It's like, so it was really difficult to adapt my training to this situation. But what I did was that, like I said, I didn't know it was torn at the time. Finally, I had an MRI like last week. So now I know it's torn, so I'm going to get surgery for it. But, I just kind of, try to do the things that I knew to help it. And then I called Rusty for like, okay, I know you've been injured before coming into a show. What do you recommend I do? And he said, you know what, just tough it out. You can get through it. Just, work on, holding your poses in such a way that it's not accentuating the hurt part. And then do everything you can and make it through, because you've come this far. You don't want to let go. And so I'm glad I got that advice from him, because it was just like, okay, Rusty says go, I'm going. So it's good to have support behind me. And then of course my husband is always there to help out and is like, whatever you want to do, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's good that your big brother looked out for you and wants you to accomplish your dreams.
He's been through all this, right? With 40 years of competing, he knows it. He's been through it. He knows the pain. He's had surgeries and then come back to kick ass again, So one thing when we were talking about Rusty's posing is I recommend anybody who's listening to just, go on YouTube and look up Rusty Jeffers posing routines, bodybuilding posing routines. He's amazing with the way he puts together his poses and to the music and everything. It's almost like a lost art. A lot of people don't put much time into their posing. They just, they do a routine and it's like, there's no grace to it. There's no excitement to it. You do have a few people now that have really good stage presence, like Salika Given. I love watching her pose because she's amazing. And so it's like that. That's kind of the same feeling you get when you see Rusty pose. Is that you can tell he's in his element. He knows what he's doing, and he's just, the way he moves is so cool. So I recommend people go look that up.
Yeah, and Mr. Russ, who do you think was back in the day when you were coming up? Who was like a great poser? Who had that great movement and skill that re-inspired you to be a poser?
Frank Zane was a Mr. Olympia at the time, way back when, and Mike Mentzer was a big influence on me, and I actually did Casey Viator's yard work, so he would train me as a teenager, and so I kind of looked up to the old school guys, and back then the posing was actually scored, that they actually put that as part of the criteria. So, everybody had to be a good poser back then,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think it was more like if you compare it to now, the guys are more bigger, they're a little bit not as well.
It's almost like they're just comparing engines. It's like, okay, here's the mandatories. Okay, now that's how they're going to judge the whole entire thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which, granted, that should be a good substantial part of it, but the artistic side of it, there should be something there too. I think, if you know how to put together something that's really inspiring,
Well, we have a comment for Mrs. For Mrs. Wellington's bridegroom, and that's Mr. Doug. He's saying this, he's saying, give me a second, let me pull it up. He just said, how do they train through injuries?
You actually sort of went through that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just saw it a while ago, but yeah, he here, Mr. Doug, he's sitting there.
Yeah.
So but folks, we'll jump into the social media for a little bit. If you want to follow, the links are in the description of this live. If you're interested in supporting them, they're nice people. I know for you guys, you come here for the women, you like the ladies, but I know people out there, you like the guys too. But don't be weird. Don't show no weird shit, no nothing, no problem. Mr. Doug's right there in the next room. Mr. Russ, I know his woman's there. She don't want no problem.
That's
so,
right.
Folks, if you want to follow these two, reach out to them with genuine interest and support. So, when jumping to social media for a bit, we're going to start off with wait a second. And we have here the last we saw. This was when you were training, and you look just wow. You look like you jacked, babe.
Oh yeah, the one where I'm doing the front. Yeah.
Yeah, you just look jacked. And KB is she's a woman of maturity. I'm not gonna say age, I respect, but it's just wow, it's like this is a good example of muscle maturity. And I can see the strong genetic connection y'all two have,
Hmm.
especially at the shoulders and the arms, good detail.
Yeah.
And this is also a little video from the final pose down. We
Oh,
love. I
yeah.
took that and I posted on my IG, and I tagged you
Right.
in it. I mean, it's beautiful when you see our ladies come together. Like I remember
Yeah.
back. I remember back in the day, Mr. Rush. Remember when you used to do final pose down to the man? Y'all got the guys be like bustling in and just trying to move and get spots. Y'all women y'all too nice.
Yeah. I didn't feel comfortable jumping in front of everybody. I didn't feel, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I was trying to squeeze in like so that people in the audience could see me between the other bodies. I didn't feel any need to barge anybody out of the way. It's not my style.
Nah. Miss Well, you gotta, Miss you gotta be you gotta push in this. Hey, I'm coming here. I'm coming here.
I'm not gonna.
I'm coming to shelter these young girls. You gotta be a bully sometimes. Here is also a nice picture of them together, brother and sister. I think this was the USA's Masters USA's back in I think it was 2022, right?
That picture is from 2020 when I finally got back on stage. I think is the muscle contest. Let's see. Oh yeah, actually that is. Sorry. Yeah, I seen the muscle contest back there. Then I think that is from the Masters.
So we jump into Mr. Rusty's here, and here is a video him at the Emerald Cup.
Nice.
This past weekend.
Yeah.
And again, this man is 60 plus. And I feel ashamed that he just. What was that feeling like? Because when the last time you competed since then, Mr. Russ?
Been 2 years. I did the Chicago Pro in 24, and
won,
I did the
right?
50 and the 55 class, and I won those.
Yeah.
Then I hadn't competed for 2 years because I had to I made a move across country. I moved to Pennsylvania, and so from Arizona to Pennsylvania was a big move, and
Yeah. A lot of life changes there. Yeah.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, that's the center of seat of power. You have the Mannions there, and there's quite a few shows. The Pittsburgh Pro's coming up in about a couple of weeks. If for women's bodybuilding, Andy, it's going to be kind of a drought. We won't see no shows till Toronto, and there's a couple of shows coming up. And you just heard that, Anastasia Ryder, she just got the money up for the Tampa Bay show, and that's great.
Awesome for the Tampa Pro. Yeah,
and but the sad part, we don't have Chicago, and we're not part of New York. Here's a classic video, of Mr. Russ training.
Yeah, demonstrating.
That's an old footage. That footage is like freaking 40 years old, dude. That was in my garage.
Yeah, this stuff has been coming across my my social media feed recently, though. So someone's posting it, even if it's not you.
People like the classics. That's what it is. They like the classic look because you look at guys like Nick Walker, you look at Andrew Jack, you look at Samson Dewar. Actually, I was at Tampa. I got to meet Derek Lungford because he was there because Eunice had her bad rap booth there, and I was there hanging out, helping her out. And he was there looking at the stuff and talking to us. Anybody now currently, both of y'all think really is the face of your sport that really represents bodybuilding, either divisions?
Well, I think basically Andrea Shaw is an awesome representative for what women's bodybuilding is and should be, with her full muscle bellies and just the femininity that she's got huge muscles and also being feminine at the same time. I love that, and she's just such a wonderful person, and she's super graceful, and I really admire her a lot. I think she's great.
Yeah, she's an amazing person. I've interviewed quite a few ladies who know her, who worked with her. I mean, she represents, I think, of a great look, because I think one thing about when you're a woman in the sport, you get a lot of flack. With guys, you don't get as much because men are allowed to have muscles, to be big, to be muscular. But women, it's a lot of prejudices. I mean, a conversation we had about how people make comments like if you like a woman with muscle, you're gay. I don't think Mr. Doug is gay. If you are, a woman with muscle, you look at it as just something different. And Mr. Russ, I have to admit my crime. I am a muscle person. I love the ladies, but I respect what you do as a bodybuilder and as a competitor, and what fuels you in this sport.
Yeah. So Russ, what fuels you in the sport now?
What fuels you? What gets you?
What gets you going?
And do what you do.
Well, I still feel I'm competitive, and I got a competitive nature to me, so I want to see what I can do against everybody, you know. So that's kind of like where, you know, where mine comes from.
We got here from my nephew Alex. It says this. He says, Rusty, have you met any other famous bodybuilders throughout those past decades? And Andrea, since you mentioned you are a scientist, what type of science do you study in? So let's go, ladies first. We gotta go with the baby. She's the baby girl.
Okay, so actually, I just retired from my job. I was a research scientist at the University of Arizona for 36 years. And after I had 3 family members die of not old age in a 1.5-year time span, I was like, you know what? Time is limited. I'm going to spend my time doing what I really love doing, which means, you know, more time for bodybuilding and more time for riding motorcycles and more time to be with my husband and my family and visit my grandkids in Nebraska and all that good stuff. Yeah, so I retired, but basically the work that I was doing most recently, yeah, that's a picture of me on my HP4 race bike at the track. Super fun. And that's me. That was just yesterday. We were at Podium Club riding, had a great time sitting on my lovely bike.
This is my personal favorite.
Yeah. You know what? That day I rode all day and I had no carbs. And, you know, I was getting ready for the show. That was like a week or 2 before the Triple O Dynasty. And so that's why I am not smiling in that picture. I did not have the energy to smile. Barely had energy to hit the post. But got it done. Anyway, the type of research that I did, if you can see this picture behind me, that's a confocal microscope image from a mouse retina. And so what I used to do, we use a mouse model of diabetes. We also have a mouse model of Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. And the part of the job that I would do is I would immunostain those retinas from the mice, which is the neural tissue in the back of the eye. And then we would label different proteins in there and then look for changes between the disease state and the healthy state. And so a lot of my images have actually been in bioart shows. And I've won a couple of image contests with my mouse retina images over the years. And, you know, I've been like basically kind of the lab manager for labs for most of my career. So it's worked out to be a great career for me. And that, you know, I enjoyed doing that kind of work. But when it came to the point of, you know, do I spend 8 hours a day, you know, mentoring students and doing this research, or do I spend 8 hours a day with really things that I can't replace and nobody else on the planet can do, which is live my life and do what I want to do. So I decided I'm doing what I want to.
Yeah. And with you, Mr. Russ, for you, like your experience being in the sport for a long time, the people you met and the people that you worked with,
early on, I was training at Carlos Rodriguez's gym in Tucson, and I used to see Carlos Rodriguez and Marlon Darton. Marlon was one of the first guys that had over 24-inch arms, just enormous, you know. But those guys were inspirational, you know. I used to just watch what they did and try to copy it, you know.
You ever get to meet Arnold, Lou Ferrigno, like Lou? You ever meet those gentlemen?
I met Lou once in Venice Beach. At the Venice Golds, I was down there doing a photo shoot, and I was just training one day, and I was doing some type of a row, and he was like, "You're doing that wrong." He goes, I learned the hard way. You need to do it like this. And he showed me how to do it. I was like, oh, right on. Okay, I guess I'll listen, you know.
He's a Cripple Hulk.
But Lou was a nice guy. I thought he was a real nice guy.
Yeah, he's a Cripple Hulk.
I trained with Lee Priest for about a year when he was in Arizona, you know, and we beat each other up pretty good.
You guys, there was a magazine. Was that Was it Muscular Development that you
It was
and
Robert Kennedy's magazine, whatever
Okay.
that one
Muscle
was.
development.
Oh, Muscle
yeah.
Mag International, I think.
Muscle Mag. Oh, Muscle Mag. Yeah, Muscle Mag. Yeah, yeah.
But we had like 5 issues in a row of our workouts. They took us up to Canada and filmed us like for a whole week. It was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
great opportunity. I used to collect those magazines. We have here shout out to my man here. Dose. He says, did they ever compete in Europe? Well, I know Mr. Russ said he did Romania. Were there any other shows you did in Europe, or was just Romania was your first time?
No, Romania. I competed in Australia a couple of times, and I competed in Romania. Those are pretty much the only overseas shows I've done.
Yeah, we had here. This is from a man, PLJ. He says this. He has a comment for lovely Miss Wellington. It says, "Hi, how much more size will you add, Andrea? Andrea.
Well, my main thing is I'm going to need to add some size to my legs, but it's going to take some time to do that because, like I mentioned, I have this torn hamstring, so I'm getting surgery for it at the end of May, and it's going to be quite a bit of recovery to get that to, be able to actually handle the weight that it's going to require to add mass to my legs. I mean, I'm using things like blood flow restriction cuffs right now so I can get a little more benefit out of using lighter weights. But yeah, so I'm going to definitely add quite a bit of size to my quads and hamstrings. I'm not sure how much I'd love to add more to my shoulders because you can never have 2 big shoulders, right? Yeah, I don't know. We'll kind of play it by ear and see. It's like, to me, it's like you can't ever really be too big, right? So I'll just see how big I can get.
Yeah. And who's y'all coaches? Who's y'all working with now? Because
my coach is Rafe Tyke, and then also I get support from Rusty as well, as far as when I have extra questions and things like that. But yeah, and Rusty started me out years ago with doing my coaching. But yeah, Rafe Tyke helps me now, and he's helped his wife be on the Olympia stage. So I figure he knows something about what.
Yeah, Rafe knows what he's doing. He's good.
Yeah, his wife, Melissa Tyke, is, Melissa took a step back. She's not going to compete, but she's going to focus on helping and training competitors. But we love to see her come back.
She's still training her ass off. You should see her. I just saw her in the gym on Saturday. She looks amazing. She looks like she's ready to step on stage tomorrow. I mean,
you never know, because
everything.
Because I just did an interview with Hella Trevino. Hella just announced her retirement. She's working with her, Irene Anderson, and Gina. They're doing the Team 4 Pro thing. That's an amazing lady. It's like I said again, this sport is about what is more important for you. Like you said, you retired from your job and you focus on your family because you have family members that pass. And what you're doing research, especially I'm pre-diabetic. My mother, she was diabetic, also was doing Alzheimer's. I appreciate that because that helps a lot of people who are going through that. Shout out to my man Nodos. He says this. He has a question. What's their favorite show?
As in, like, contest to compete in?
Yeah.
Okay. I really liked the way that the Triple O Dynasty was run, and part of the reason for that is that they had the pro part of it. They it's just 2 classes of women, and so it was relatively quick and very efficient. And so we go in and we're on stage for the first time at 9 a.m. We're done by noon, and so you don't have to try to stay peaked for 12 hours straight, right? There were times in the past when at the women's extravaganza at Wings of Strength before I turned pro, where I'm on stage at 8 a.m. for prejudging, and I wasn't on stage again for the night show until 6 p.m. And so all that time you're having to kind of track your water and your salt and your carb intake and everything, and then you're showing pictures to your coach and trying to get feedback and all these things, and it's a little bit stressful. So I really enjoyed the Triple O Dynasty for that reason.
And you, Mr. Rusty?
Yeah, your favorite show you competed in?
Favorite show?
Yeah.
Peaky Blinders.
What's that?
That's like a
TV
series,
show.
But
okay,
no.
I'm not familiar.
But the show you like to do if you ever get a chance to do it again, if you can.
The last few shows I've done have all been very well run. This last Emerald Cup, they did a really good job with it. I think they've over the years have developed a better system, to make it so it's smoother, So, but yeah, the Emerald Cup is definitely a good show to do. I would do it again.
Yeah, it's a master show. It does have women's bodybuilding, has physique and other divisions, but I did shout out to a couple ladies who did this show. One lady interview, she also did the Triple O, Lisa Hutchinson, so she got her Master's O qualification for next year.
Nice.
We got here, shout out to my man Dose. He also has asked this question, says, what's their favorite movie? You have a movie you like,
Falling down.
Which one is that?
Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the one with Michael Douglas? I think that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a bad day. And,
Like, look at this little sorry looking thing. It doesn't look
but
like the picture.
and shooting against the price of things. We're going back to the 50s. Sorry, dude, can't go back. That's not an over, but it's a classic. Mr. Douglas just retired himself from acting at 81 years old. I mean,
I don't know. Law Abiding Citizen was pretty good too.
Yeah, I mean, can't forget what's the one with him and Glenn Close? God, I remember that. That's a classic. I remember from the TV show The Streets of San Francisco, back in the day when I was a kid. It used to come on television. Shout out here to my man Lawrence Perkins. He says this. He says, hello, Andrea, Rusty, George, and everyone in the chat. Thank you, brother. Also, he says muscle development magazines happened back in early 2000 as well. They go farther back, brother. Also, he says this. He says, just want to let you know, Andy and Russ, keep on your legacy alive to inspire people around the world. The art of muscle saves lives and helps the strength of tempo as well. Shout out to my man Lawrence. So with you dealing with your injury now this year, maybe take some time to really grow. And with you coming back to the stage, Mr. Russ, what are your plans for competition this year? Are you going to do any more shows, or you feel like you want to take more time?
Yeah, Russ, are you doing more shows this year?
I haven't really decided yet. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. And what's for your injury, Andy? What show you would love to do that you think you want to do?
Well, I think I might do the Triple O Dynasty again when I come back, and then actually, I have my sights set on doing the Masters Pro World when I'm 60, because they have a 60 and up class, and Rusty competed that in the past, and I thought that'd be cool if I could compete there too.
That's great.
Maybe we'll do it the same year. But we'll do the 60 plus class.
Yeah,
the supplement that is our favorite supplement is a supplement called Humanifort.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Also, we got here from a man. It says Ref is a great coach. She made Melissa into a very competitive bodybuilder. He also, to my man Lawrence, says, I just came in for the little bit. I just came in for a little bit. You spell because I keep eyes on the weather because my state is under a tornado watch until 9 p.m. Ooh, yeah.
Yikes.
We had a little storm here earlier the week. Had a lot of rain, stuff like that. Weather's changing, it's getting warmer. You know how it is. Also, he says Triple O Dynasty was a great show. Y'all did amazing job on stage. We got here from Haley. If it's Haley Robbie or whatever. I can't pronounce his name. Says hi, my man. P says I hope in the future the judges are rewarding bigger size in women's bodybuilding. Well, the thing is, if you look at the divisions now, have it evolved over time. Like you look compared to from like people from Corey Everson to Andrea Shaw, or from the Frank Zanes to guys like Derek Lumford. You see it how it has changed, and you see like it seemed like now it seemed like so close. Guys in men's classic are getting big as guys in open, and you saw that Chris Bumstead, he did an open show before he retired his last Olympia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm curious how they're going to keep the lines separated between the different classes too, in that regard. The classic bodybuilding versus the regular. And Rusty, one question I had for you is, I noticed that they had a classic bodybuilding class, but you chose not to compete in that. I was curious why.
I can't make the weight. I'm too heavy for the height.
Oh, of course. I forgot about the weight thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think the same thing because that's one thing about 212. That's why Arnold doesn't have it at his show anymore because he doesn't like it. He doesn't have. Other thing he has is open and men's classic and men's physique. And then he just has when you come to the women's side, you have bikini and you got wellness and you have fitness. And there's a new division, as I call it, the basket division. I call it fit model. Excuse me. Ha! I'm like this. I'm bodybuilder. Even though I've been a fan of because bodybuilding for women, especially men, those are two of the architect divisions. If it wasn't for those divisions, the others wouldn't be around. And the guys will keep on going because you got a lot more support, a lot more attention. But it's a struggle, as you know. The women's bodybuilding just started a whole thing with a group chat, trying to find support. Quite a few ladies are involved in that. And, the sport is evolving over time, as you said again, the looks, the size. Like when your last shows, as you remember, what was the critique you got from your judge, Mr. Russ? What did he tell you?
Yeah, Russ, did you get any critique from the judges?
The judges?
No, I kind of know what I need to do. I've had a few minor injury type things that I need to kind of deal with in order to get these body parts to respond a little better and stuff. So I know exactly what I need to do. I can look at the posing routine and go, yep, need a little bit more width on the back. Yep. Could use a little more, separation in the glute hams, you can just see it. I don't need the judge to tell me. I know.
That's good that you understand because you've been competing for quite some time. But a lot of competitors, especially the newer young competitors, always want to get feedback from judges. One person I wouldn't take his word for a grain of salt is Tyler Mannion. He is an old saying. He's still wet behind the ear and breath smell like Similac. I mean, his thing is this sport is about understanding the factors of growth, size, development, the process of training, like especially. As I'm a big dude. I'm a fat man. I like food, especially after that long, hard prep and you've been hungry, hangry, and you're tired. I know Mr. Doug took you out to eat, Miss Wellington, Miss Andy. And what did you have for each of you? What was that thing you had to enjoy?
So after the Triple O Dynasty, Rusty he'd flown down from Pennsylvania to come see me compete. And so after we finished our post-show pose down in the courtyard, we went over to Cheesecake Factory. That's kind of been our tradition. And Rusty started with a slice of carrot cake. And then, that was cool. And then I had I think it was Bang Bang chicken and shrimp. It wasn't anything crazy. And then I did have, they had a pineapple upside down cake, cheesecake that I've never tried before there. And the way the waiter described it sounded amazing. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to have that cheesecake. So that's what I had as my little victory meal. So Rusty, what did you eat after the Emerald Cup?
My buddy Rich took me out to this sushi place that he's like, oh, you got to try this sushi place out. It's freaking great. They bake these rolls and everything. And so, all right, cool. So I went there. It was really good.
Yum.
Sushi. I went, ma'am, sir, I grew up poor, but never so poor. I eat cold raw fish, but the roll sounds pretty good. They heat it up real good. We have your comment here from my man here. Shout out to my man. Noto says, what Rusty and Andy like and don't like towards the judges in the last 40 years and basically towards bodybuilding shows. So, he's asking what do you like and don't like? Like the changes that have changed over the years, especially with you, Mr. Rusty, like how you've been competing along. What other things you've seen have changed that you feel like you wouldn't mind going back to the old days?
I would say I would like them to maybe consider the posing routines as part of the judging criteria.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too. So I think that would help everything. It would help the shows be more entertaining to everybody as well. I think if we did it that way, where people would actually, there's a reason to put some effort into making an awesome posing routine rather than, oh, it's just a stupid requirement.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing, posing is a very important part of the process because you need to do it because the judges want to see a certain look, a certain flow. You know, you have your mandatories, and that's when you start for the prejudging, and then the finals you have that where you want to really present yourself like a little dainty buff ballerina on stage. You know, you want to bring a certain class to it. But some people, you know, I think, like, again, we go back to a lot of young competitors who want to I just want to flex and do that and rah, 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 rah. You know, it's just, I think everybody has different tastes, but I think, you know, if what has worked in the past worked before, maybe we should stick to it. So here we have shout out to my man P says, how do people react when they see both of you in public?
They want to take a picture of us sometimes. They want, can we take a picture with you?
Yeah.
I had a lot of that this weekend.
At Cheesecake Factory, just after the Triple O Dynasty, the one little boy was really amazed with Rusty's biceps, and his dad came up and said, "Those are the biggest biceps we've ever seen." Like, yep.
I think with children, they're just so genuine because you look at something, you know, like a man or woman with muscles, like superheroes. Like here we got some pictures here with them together, you know, because out to you know, Andrea, she's seen these pictures. Y'all look really, you know, too bad, you know what? Too bad can't do like, you know, back in the day, you remember used to have
couples.
Yeah, couples.
Mixed pairs,
Mixed pairs. I mean, you know,
they kind of phased that out.
Yeah, I remember
that's a good shot. Dang.
Yeah. I remember it was Diane Dennis, and she was Kevin. I think what was Kevin's last name? I remember his last. I forgot it. I remember Tony Pearson. He was pretty popular. He worked with Laura Craval, Carla Dunlap. He did a lot of posing with a lot of ladies back in the day. He did some you know, single stuff, but he was more popular in the mixed pairs.
Yeah.
You know. So, you know, as the sport evolves over time, what y'all two think really can need to really make it to get more attention? Because, you know, remember back in the day, you should be on television. You can catch it on Worldwide Sports, ESPN, ABC. What would probably help it to get more attention? Because one thing, it's always been an issue about steroids, but it's so easy to point that finger at it. But it's almost in every other sport, and it's used in just everything from, as you know, you're a scientist, you understand that it's used for recovery or helping out, you know, with people with cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't think there's any hope it's ever going to be on like regular TV, and especially if you look at the way that social media is right now, so many people, they don't even bother with TV anymore. They're just watching what they're already interested in, right? And so I think what we need to do is just try and catch more people to help them see that there's a pathway that they could become a bodybuilder if they're interested in that, right? And that I think sometimes you may be the first time you ever see a super muscular woman, you're like, what the hell? Just because it's different, right? And then once you see it a lot, you're like, oh, okay, this is normal. And I think a lot of times, you know, you have kids who grow up playing with, you know, little toys or whatever, and all the boys' toys, they look like kind of like Rusty, right? Like what they have, all the superheroes have muscles, right? Whereas the female Barbie doll doesn't really have muscles, does she? She's got other parts. So it's like, you know, if we can kind of change things around a little bit and we have more of the superheroes, like, you know, when they did the more recent Wonder Woman movie, you know, I think they could have done a lot better if they used somebody with some more muscle, right? Because it's like, look, you need strength to be able to do these things, right? Just like He-Man needed his strength.
Yeah, He-Man's coming back. Yeah, new He-Man movie coming out. And what about you, Mr. Russ? What you feel like what could help, you know, your sport evolve and get more recognition, more opportunities?
I think that